welcome. Hope you're all having a wonderful conference. I'm your host for the day. I'm Praveen. I lead the manufacturing industry for Google Cloud. I have a global role. I'm responsible for our strategy and solutions. So we have put together an exciting agenda today. So we have a very impressive lineup of speakers who would come in and share their journey on how they're really transforming their companies. But before I bring them in, I just want to quickly share a view of what Google Cloud is doing, why are we in this industry, and what's our point of view. So to start with, as you know, manufacturing is one of the top contributors of global GDP. It accounts for about 15% of the global GDP, accounting to about $7 trillion in economic value add. As you can see, it's distributed throughout the world. The largest market is in Asia, followed by NORTHAM, EMEA, everywhere. And what does manufacturing mean, right? So manufacturing is a very large industry, and manufacturing is also the most data-intensive industry. Manufacturing produces about 4.4 zettabytes of data, which is equivalent to you watching Netflix 4K movies for 10 million years straight, right? So yet, millions of customers make millions of dollars worth of decisions purely on the gut feeling, right? So think about that, right? But in that data resides everything that's happening in your company, why it's happening, what can you do about it? And that's what we are trying to discuss here in this new agentic era. So before that, manufacturing, we broadly define it into 3 tiers. One is discrete. So this is where you involve a friction in making parts. You're cutting, joining, welding, things like that. There are several sub-industries that come under this. And then there is also process industries, which involve recipes, which oftentimes you're dealing with viscosity, mixing, stirring, so those kind of a thing. So they formulate many of the other sub-industries that you see here. And then there are hybrids, right? So that includes both your pharmaceuticals and CPG, things like that. So we have a point of view on all these 3 sub-industries as well. One thing that I want to call out on the manufacturing is this is the only industry where every dollar you put in, you add almost $2.7 back into the economy. Think about that, close to $3 in economy. So that's why investing in manufacturing is a good idea, right? Now, moving on, so what are the challenges that we hear, right? We've been very fortunate to have many big logos as our customers. We have 3 big brands here who's going to come and tell you their stories. But what do we hear from many of the customers? So we hear 3 main things. One is the cost disruptions, right? Because anytime you deal with the operations, any small disruption, it's snowball balloons, right? So lack of real-time visibility leads to unplanned breakdown, that leads to quality, that leads to customer unsatisfaction, and then rework, so it goes on, right? It has a snowballing effect. In fact, industry analysts estimate it to be $1.4 trillion just in the Fortune 500 companies. Think about that, right? How much it adds to the second and third tier companies, right? And then the third thing is the cost pressure. With the raising costs of labor, materials, if you bring in the market dynamics into the picture, think about like currency fluctuations, your interest rate fluctuations, right? Exchange rates. So all those things also adds many times the lowest sourcing country or the vendor is no longer your lowest sourcing, right? So if you take advantage of the market and understand it, there is a lot of efficiency you can uncover. So third thing is around the skill gap, right? Manufacturing industry currently in US employs around 13 million. We're expected to have another 4 million new employees coming into the workforce by 2023. So essentially with the aging population and retiring workers and more demand, so there is a lot of challenges that customers are thinking, how can we solve this? Can technology help? And it absolutely does. How is agents helping? So agents mean different things. For us, we look at agents from 3 different lenses. One is agents that are chatbots, essentially. They are information retrieval systems, so there is one category. So I think we have exhausted many of those things. And then you have application that comes with their own databases and their own UI. So that's the second type that you see all through 24 and 2025. But now we are entering an era of multi-agent workflows and orchestration system. These are sophisticated agents. And this not only they have multi-agent, you also have a multi-vendor agents, right? Think about like Google Cloud agents collaborating with some of the other vendors, agents from ISVs or even other hyperscalers, right? How do you orchestrate this? And how do you make them autonomous, right? How do you govern them? How do you control them? Those are all the topics of discussions we are going to have later today in this session. Now, what's Google Cloud doing? All those things are great, right? So we have an Industry 5.0 vision. So a lot of people ask me, oh, we are not even at Industry 4.0. You are talking to us at 5.0. You don't need to go through 4.0 to go to 5.0. Just like you don't need to go to landline to go to your cell phone, right? So you can go straight to 5.0 and skip 4.0 altogether. So the big difference that you see here is 4.0 is all about automation, right? So you're automating OT data, IT data in a monolithic thing. So here you have essentially intelligent automated system, but they're oftentimes rule-based, right? And then they have a nice segregation of OT data, IT data. Most of them only deal with structured and somewhat unstructured, but now you're going to an autonomous era, from automation to autonomous. Think about that, right? And then here, you're not restricted by what type of data it is, OT, IT. You could have context from unstructured data, or you could also have context from synthetic data, right? For situations that are unique, you can't quite get it, right? So, this is where the digital twin, robotics, physical AI are coming into play. Every one of you who have flown here, have sat in a plane where the pilot was trained by one of the digital twins, right? Which is a flight simulator. So if you are willing to do that, how could you put a robot into your factory without putting it through 1,000 hours of a robotic simulator, right, in a digital twin? So things like that. And then the advantage here you'll also see is this is very outcome-based, and it's based on the first principles. Because every manufacturing customer care about three things, right? How do I innovate faster? How do I make my innovation faster, cheaper, better? And how do I sell that at the right price point through right channels to right people? And everything else is extra, right, if you think about it. So if you go to any CTOs here and ask, what's the ROI on my MES? It's very hard to tell. But if you say how much I'm spending on my labor, they can tell you how much spending on this product. They can tell you that, right? And that's where we are trying to get the technology to align with the way the business works and the business thinks, and which is how it should be. And that's what you would see. Now, and then there are many different benefits with it. You could deliver it either at the edge or on the cloud. So there are many innovations that we are doing with our partners on how to build these agents, low code and no code. So oftentimes people ask me, that's great, but where do I get started? There are many things, right? Manufacturing is broad. So we recommend starting on 4 broad areas, which are primed for AI. One is the production control, which talks about, how do you manage from your external demand all the way to internal plant scheduling, right? So that includes your S&OP planning, demand planning, scheduling of your workforce, connected workers, and all that, right? So that's where you bring in OT, IT data. We have many tools like Alpha Evolve, which can do constraint-based optimization, saying 5,000 workers, of which hundreds are out on a vacation, other 50 is out sick, other 200 work only on the first shift, not on the second shift. So you could build all those constraints and then build a compelling production plan to meet your external demand. Second thing is around maximizing workforce, right? So which talks about AI coach. We talked about a huge skill gap and then the aging population. So this is where you can take your generalist workers and make them do specialized work with the aid of AI. Because as you go into the future, the workers are not going to walk around in, sweaty hands and dirty pants with screwdrivers and hammers trying to bang something to work. So the future is going to be, the workers are going to be technocrats. They would be debugging a machine. They would be orchestrating a system. They would be analyzing a machine prediction, right? They would be scheduling maintenance, things like that. So how do you enable them to move to a more of a decision maker? Yesterday in the keynote, you heard 75% of the new Gemini code is produced by the old Gemini code, and the engineers are approving the code. Think about that. That's a very different paradigm than people having to put their fingers on the keyboard and code, right? And same thing is happening in manufacturing, right? Third thing is transforming operations, which is including your throughput, improving your efficiency, effectiveness, gaining more of your machines, right, and making sure your set points for the processes are right, and your CPQs are captured properly, and telemetrics, and also capture any of the unstructured data like your noise, harmonics, vibrations, so that you can predict, have a much better prediction on the health of the machines. And the last thing is around quality and safety, right? So this is where computer vision is coming into play. Multimodality is the new computer vision now, right? So think about that, right? We've gone way past computer vision. Now you're looking at all the other modalities and treating them just like how you would treat vision, right? Now, how is Google Cloud really helping, and where do you really start, and why Google Cloud matters? So we are the only cloud providers who are kind of advocating looking at manufacturing holistically across the board, because we recognize many of the shop floor problem lies elsewhere, oftentimes in engineering and design. So we have solutions like Manufacturing Data Engine, which can essentially aggregate data across the board, whether it's your OT, IT, ET, right? And then create you a unified thread that you can take and essentially build agents on top of it, right? This connects to all the other Google system. It connects to your factory system. We have many connectors. And also good thing about this is it's secure from the get-go. You don't build something and then try to make it secure. You build it in a secure environment, because OT security is such a big deal, right? Especially in this new era. By leveraging this, you are building everything that you have in the most secure way, and you are building it with scalability in mind. You have heard about pilot purgatory, right? You have heard about duct tape architecture, right? The pilots work, but they don't scale. Why? Because, oftentimes it's difficult, right, with scaling a product or solution made out of duct tape architecture, right? So that's where MDE comes handy, where you could not only build your own internal system, you can also connect this with your telemetry data while your product is in use, bring that data back into your product design, and create that virtuous cycle, right, of innovation. So you continue to get better and better and better, and then delight your customers, right? So now, so we talked a lot about agents and all. I just want to show one example of what we mean by the factory of the future. How would we see some of these agentic solutions are going to transform? And then I'm going to call our panelists. With that, please enjoy this video. So with that, now is the best part of this panel, right? You get to hear from the real life situations from some of the industry stalwarts. I would like to call upon Cyrille Picchiottino first. Cyrille is an industry veteran with Renault, 27 plus years, and He's responsible for IS migration, so we're going to introduce, but we have an exciting story. Mandar is the CTO of, please take your seat. Maybe that one, that way that I can, yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's good, yeah, fine. Please take it, yeah. Mandar CTO of G Appliances, is responsible for all the technology at G Appliances. And then Mandar. Yeah. Thank you. And then Dan Coughlin, Senior Director of Intelligent Solutions at Carrier Corporations. All right. Thank you so much for coming to this panel. So super excited about the conversation that we're going to have. So let me just to begin with, I just want to kind of ask you to introduce in a fun way, right? Since we have a Renault executive here, automotive, so assume that you clicked on a wrong agentic button or somewhere, suddenly it turned you into a car part, right? So what car part would you be based on your personality? But it gave you a choice, whichever part you want to be.
I would say an engine for me.
Which one?
Engine.
Oh, engine. Okay. Yes. So because you run the company, or the pretty much
no, just
the
because
business.
Without engine, your car can't move.
Okay. Okay, makes sense. Mandar, same question.
Firstly, thank you for having me here. And next time you can ask what kind of appliance you want to be.
There you go. Yes, we will do that.
So I would like to be a vehicle's central control system like the ELC, which connects the signals and orchestrate how everything comes together.
Okay, it fits naturally as a CTO. Yes, thank you. So Dan, same question to you.
Sure. I would say pretty applicable, probably the central air conditioning, right?
Makes sense. Nobody likes to ride a car which is super hot or super
You want to be cool, you want to do it with efficiency.
Makes sense. Thank you for that. So, so the thing that we hear is the narrative is, right, in 24, 25, $1, most of the agents were like the inside builder, right? There was a big gap between knowledge and the actual action. There is a popular saying, right, if you have a lot of vision without action, it's nothing but hallucination, right? So the question is, like, what are the hurdles that you see as we move from leveraging AI as a doer to an AI as an orchestrator in your business? So let me start with you, Cyrille, and then.
Yes, I will say for me the biggest hurdle is the acceptance of wrong decisions taken by a non-human. I would say it's exactly like autonomous cars. It's by far safer, for sure, but it's hard to accept when a machine is taking a wrong decision. So clearly we will have to change our mindset about that.
Very true, totally agree with that. Mandar?
Just to add to that, right? The biggest hurdle was not technology for us. It was defining the operating model. Early on, we had so many isolated AI use cases, but the question became, what kind of organization do you want to be? And then we figured it out that fully autonomous operation is not the end game for us. We are creating or we are building an organization which is algorithmic organization with human at the core. What it means is that AI will orchestrate, but people will lead on and lead the outcomes as well, right? And then as that happened, the biggest hurdle was people, right? So we need to go out and democratize AI so that we can put up an AI in the hands of the people who are closer to the problem and then work. That makes a huge value, but it makes the orchestration very tough because you are no more managing a couple of pilots. You are redesigning the organization to go out and work across people, process, systems, but more importantly, agentic AI portion of it, right? And that was our real shift when we decided to move from isolated AI into orchestrating the end-to-end workflows by changing the whole company's reorganization.
Oh, fantastic. It reminds me of a saying, right? The contradicts coexist many times. So the people can be an asset, can also be a hurdle, like you said, depending on how you look at it and how you maneuver.
Right.
Thank you.
And then you can refer to our yesterday's press release, right, where Google and then GE Appliances announced about how we are democratizing AI, how Google Enterprise is playing a major role across supply chain, manufacturing, and then operations to go out and drive the agentic value there.
Okay, thank you. Dan, same question.
Yeah, I would echo, there's of course the technical aspect, and to truly get agentic, I think there's two things. You have to have the context, which is where a lot of that legwork is. You have to get the telemetry, you have to get information about the environment that you want to incorporate. So that's all the fun technical legwork, but then the next real aspect is the objective. How do you coordinate the right objective that you want the agent to take? And then what are the guardrails to what they all said about how do you have the human in the loop? How do you raise those alerts? How do you make sure that the orchestration decisions the agents are taking are the correct ones, and you constantly have that feedback loop?
Okay, thank you. So maybe I'll start with you, Cyrille, again. Like one of the things that you hear about is agentic factory system, right? And you saw like there are many different kinds of agents in there, right? So how do you define, and the question is all of you, so certainly, how do you define agentic factory today? And then as you talk about agentic factory, people associate also with, bridging the gap between digital and physical, right? Because that's kind of the future that you see. And then also if you could comment on, how Google is kind of helping as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for me, agentic factory is a union of a digital twin or metaverse adapt processes, because if we don't adapt the processes, we won't have massive gains. And of course, now AI is to automatize tests and decisions.
Yes.
And having a strong metaverse augment the ability for us to produce better cars, meaning with less quality issues, reduce carbon emission, and also optimize spendings to produce cars.
Okay, Mandar, same thing. How do you define agentic factory?
For us, agentic factory is not just a set of AI tools.
Yes.
It's a closed loop where you connect your intelligence, simulation, and then execution across the factory, right? Like Cyrille mentioned, it connects 3 layers. It's your physical factory, digital twin, and more importantly, the agentic AI layer. And then how Google is playing a role, if you ask me, we need to go back to your slide. You already answered that. So Google is the bridge to go out and connect all of the 3 things together, because with that, you are helping us to go out and gather the data. You are allowing us to go out and let the agent reason, but more importantly, keep the digital twin grounded to the reality, right? Google Cloud is not just hosting our AI, but you guys are enabling it to ensure that AI and the digital twins are grounded into the physical reality, so the decisions what we are trying to go out and make using the AI are relevant and then are appropriate to what is happening in the reality, right? So if you see how Google has played a role is that Google has ensured that we move from decision making from the dashboards into the orchestrated workflow across the organization.
Okay, fantastic. Same thing for you?
Sure. I would say the big aspect I go back to is objectives. How do you coordinate all of the activities that have to happen? A lot of it is being machine related, but then of course everything else going around the machines, our fleet. What we're doing with Carrier Energy is really, of course, all about comfort in our devices, but we're starting to also think about sustainability and energy loads, and what does that look like as a secondary objective, as another big important objective. So where we're partnering a lot with Google is on what we call our data foundation, and it's, of course, not only our telemetry from our devices, but now we're starting to get into other data sources, things like weather prediction, things like working with local utilities to understand what the grid is doing. So there's a lot that comes together from a data standpoint to start achieving outcomes.
Okay, thank you. So now we'll kind of talk about, we defined the narrative, we defined from how action to autonomous, we defined what a smart factory is. Now I want to focus on what you are doing and a little bit more about how, right? Because people get what, and they also get why, but how is kind of where a lot of people struggle, right? So Dan, maybe let me start with you. Since you're in a very unique role, right? Your intelligent solutions product, you're dealing with a lot of telemetry, and everything that you do also affects the manufacturing, because I'm a firm believer manufacturing problems lies in the product design, right? So tell us more about your role, what you're doing, and also more importantly, how are you getting the agents to move beyond predicting the event to actually remedying the problem, right? Now that's the action from insight to action transition. Okay.
Yeah, happy to. So just a little bit background on Carrier Energy. What we're really focused on is, as I said, of course, climate and comfort, heating and cooling with Carrier, but what does the load look like from our devices and how do we tie that all together? How does it affect factories? How does it affect the grid overall? And so when units come on, especially our units, and they flip on at 3 p.m. at a huge load that spikes, it attacks the grid. So now when we really talk about moving this up is how do we start to orchestrate? How do we add some flexible energy solutions so that we can change how things start to perform, not just at individual unit levels, but now in this ecosystem of a fleet. So we can start controlling devices for larger outcomes and bigger outcomes.
Okay, thank you. So Mandar, big announcement yesterday, and thank you for all the partnership. So tell us your journey about Google Cloud, how you got started and why you picked Google Cloud. And also, since you are in an orchestrator role, I'm kind of also interested to hear like your whole edge to cloud transition, because the factories you run, you can't have any downtimes. You would immediately get text and somebody, it gets escalated pretty fast, especially when you run these agents 24/7, right? And what's your how do you get past the latency? Because latency is a very undesirable thing in factory, right? So talk about like your whole technology stack, transition, architecture, and also how you got started.
Okay. It was quite a journey, right? GE Appliances is the #1 North America, US appliance manufacturer, right? We take a proud on that. And then we are bringing the manufacturing back into the United States. We announced billions of dollars of investment in upcoming years, right? But when you're trying to go out and bring the manufacturing back, you need to go out and have a transformation of your systems around it. And then the reality is that the traditional manufacturing systems exist for a reason, right? They provide the reliability and then stability, right? So our approach was not to go out and replace the control logic with the AI, okay? Our principle was simple: let control systems control, and then AI orchestrate. And that's where we formed up the whole transformation strategy around what we wanted to do, leveraging Google into the mix about how we wanted to go out and create that 24/7 orchestrating workflow layers on that aspect of it. So if you think from our standpoint, it was not, autonomous was not the first starting point, it was integration. We ensured that we had a standardized data, contextualized data, but more importantly, we connected our shop floor systems into the enterprise workflows, right? With additional governance, additional security, so that we can go out and act on it. And then we enabled that with edge compute, along with the cloud orchestration, right? So that our real critical decisions stay locally, but your context broader sensitive and then learning can happen in a cloud, right? With that, what we made ensured that your real-time decisions are happening at the edge and then not dependent on any latency, right? And then with that, we build up the lot of connectivity and other issues. So even if there is an intermediate connectivity issue as well, my edge continued to work. So that was the high-level game plan about how we went about leveraging Google, but transforming the shop floor into the edge aspect of it, where 24/7 agents can run, Praveen.
Thank you. And I have the privilege of visiting GE factories, and it was one of the most well-run facilities that I've seen, and there is a lot of learning for, at least for me as well, in how you guys are running your business and factories. Okay, so I'll ask the question while they get you the mic so you can hear me. All right. So it's basically, I want to we want audience to also see, how did you think about moving workloads from on-prem to cloud, particularly manufacturing, and also how did you think about having an autonomous agent, and most importantly, scaling them to the industrial metaverse you have. You have so many factories, right? So basically, talk about your role and your journey with Google Cloud, particularly when it comes to building autonomous agents and scaling them to multiple factories.
Yeah, okay. So it's better now mic is working. So I will present you a major use case for Renault. It's incidentology management. So we started a journey a couple years ago with 3 pillars. First one, it was process digitalization. Second one was data, and the first one is related to AI in support of strong business ambitions. In 2021, we wanted to reduce per 2 the incidentology up to 2025. And we achieved this in a matter of 4 years, so which was a very good point. So first, we work on data, because the data layer is the first thing to do if you want to structure, I would say, a multi-year approach. So we started different initiatives. The first one, and the major one, was to create a digital twin for industry by collecting and storing all the data from robots, industrial devices, etc. We also created a data set from the car about, I would say, the connected vehicle, including incidents seen by car calculators like ECU or multimedia system. We also wanted to create a data set for, I would say, customer feedback in order to have a whole set of data about the manufacturing, the usage, and the feedback from our customers. So those initiatives were part of our data approach addressed by Google Technologies, which is hosting our data lake. And this allows to have the usage of data in real time, not weeks when we had before. So I just want to make an example what I saw 30 years ago. So 30, it's a long, long time ago in terms of, I would say, digital. But 30 years ago, to collect data, we were obliged to go to each device with a floppy disk to catch data. And as we have a lot of devices inside the plants, and plants are wide, we were using a bicycle to collect manually all the data. So, of course, 30 years ago, again, not today, but now it's amazing how we are able to do things in a different way, in real time, collecting a massive set of data. So it was the first pillar, but the second pillar was to reshuffle existing incidentology information systems to exploit those data in real time with a new IS platform on GCP. So main functional and technical challenge was to reshuffle the way we manage incidentology with a more end-to-end approach, and also to address all actors. First, to have immediate protections inside the plant to avoid creating the same issue on new cars. The second step was to provide, of course, after-sales solution for our customer in order to solve the issue on existing cars. Then, if relevant, escalate this in an automatic way to parts suppliers, and also, if relevant, escalate the issue to engineering team to have a definitive solution with a new version of the part, for example. So, main technical challenge, as you can see, was to mix all the source of data in real time to have a single point of truth in a context of significant level of data. So we are talking about 5 million of signals, which is, I would say, the basic information to manage incidentology each month. And to set up real-time exchange between those IS, so using digital backbone, events, API, and for sure, also data lake. So we also consolidated information system from 20 to 5. Of course, it was to simplify the overall architecture and also promote business transversality. And then the last pillar was the integration of AI agents. So to be much more efficient, we developed AI agents to process in an automatic way, this large amount of data to classify raw information, to detect new issues, or to assign the issue to an existing one. So it was taken a lot of time before. It was manual execution and not efficient. So we by far improve that thanks to AI agents. I will say what next, because the story won't stop there. So we want to make a new quantum leap in 2030 and again divide by 2 our incidents compared to 2025. So to achieve that, we will continue to get more traceability data with our industrial digital twin by managing 5 million of data. Increase control, automatic control assist by AI in the field to 1,000 per car. And we want also to deploy what we call self-service BI, as we did with self-service AI, as we did with self-service AI, self-service AI in addition of self-service BI, what we are using today with Looker. To move from a reactive to a proactive approach. Okay. Of course, because it will help again to reduce the incidentology, and we want also to take benefits of the connected cars and be able to catch data from the car and be able, thanks to AI agents, to find what is the issue in 30 seconds after receiving this information, and then to propose solution over VR if it's technically possible.
Okay, thank you. Just for those of you who don't know, Renault is, they run one of the state-of-the-art factories, completely on digital twins and all. So they are one of our flagship customers when it comes to manufacturing. Some of the transformation that they're doing is really innovative. So now we talked about what and how. Now I want to move us to the human element side of the factory of the future. I'll start with you, Mandar. Congratulations on bringing the manufacturing back to US. But there is human element is a huge factor, as you know, because as we go into the AI era, now I was just imagining, I feel like as an industry, we are investing less in the psychology piece, because imagine a worker having to go work with a robot because they can't chit chat about, hey, what did you do last night? Which bar were you hanging out with, right? No, it's a different psyche altogether, right? And now we're also we tell everybody, look, AI is not a job replacer. It's a force multiplier, right? So it comes from all the leaders like you, but still, when you go talk to the, human beings, right, of the workers, where you need them to essentially capture some of these tribal knowledge so they can be better off, right? So how are you approaching that? How are you using agents? So you get that, because as you bring in, so the talent gap is exasperating, right? So tell us about your strategy and how you're really tackling all these different, the storms per se.
Yeah, and then in my first question I highlighted, right, technology was not the biggest hurdle, it was people, right? Because you may have a technology available, but people are not ready to adopt. That's the real friction, and that's the real challenges around. So there is no cookie-cutter approach to go out and figure it out what works and then how it is, right? But what works well for you may not be for me. The important piece is that building up the trust, right? That AI is here to go out and enable you to go out and drive the work, bring up the efficiency, and then get that going was our approach. So we democratize the AI to help people understand what it means for them, how they can leverage it to go out and do a better job, how they can go out and create a bandwidth which can be leveraged for doing something different which they have not done it out. But more importantly, what we did on the shop floor specifically is that we explicitly created roles where operators are not replaced. Operators become the supervisors of the agents, right? So their role changed from doing day-to-day tasks to managing the agents, focusing on judgment, exceptions, and then continuous improvement, right? So they are able to go out and see the value of their roles by adopting the technology, and that's what the approach we took it to go out and penetrate the AI adoption within the company, Praveen.
Okay. So Dan, Cyrille, anything else you want to add to?
Sure. I'll add, I think, to all the tribal knowledge you talked about. I mean, every time I'm around, one of our technicians, it's just incredible. We walk by a piece of equipment and it's just like humming at like a slightly different frequency, and they just hear it immediately and they just know, oh, hold on, we have to go do this to it. So how do you get something like that that's just amassed over years of expertise and then transition that to newer workers and enable those workers to be as good as your best technician? So we have a smart technician app that's starting to take in some of that tribal knowledge. You start to talking about multimodality, pulling all of those things together, and then enabling everyone back to it's a force multiplier. Now everyone gets to be the absolute expert technician, and really showing them the power of that tool.
Because reality is this: if you ask me to go out and share my knowledge, I will not be ready, right? So it's other way around, right? We will help you understand to go out and elevate, and then you share the knowledge upfront, the tribal knowledge with the agents. That's the technique.
Yes, I agree. So anything, Cyrille? Okay.
Yes, I think a lot of things have already been said. I will just add that the fact that within Renault we are not talking only about artificial intelligence, we are also talking about augmented intelligence. So it's the ability to free people from, I would say, day-to-day basic decisions, to free them to have more time to take higher level decisions. So in terms of upskilling, it's by far better.
Okay, thank you. So from the governance and control point of view, right, like as you build these autonomous agents who execute things on their own, it's mostly good, but sometimes there could be bad as well, right? So what would a kill switch look like in your organization? It's a question for all three of you.
I guess I'll get started. So with Care Energy, we have a department called the Fleet Operations Department, and so they have visibility into our entire fleet, how they're operating, the energy loads, and then on top of that, what are we trying to orchestrate? What are we trying to accomplish with the agents? And that's where you have that human in the loop, you get that information, here's what's going to happen, and then they have the ability to remotely override that if they need to hit that kill switch, change the strategy, prompt an agent to change strategies. All of those are that dynamic human interaction with our fleet operations department.
For us, governance plays a major role, and then if you see, we always design with a human override in mind, right? So though AI, your systems, machines, orchestrate or do the work, humans can intervene, pause, and then overtake at any point of time. As I mentioned, the operators' roles are not changed, replaced, they have been changed on that aspect of it, right? So what they see from their aspect of is that we are leveraging the agent to go out and do the work, but they have the authority to go out and kill at any point of time. But with trust building approach, we don't see it as a kill switch. We see it as a controlled autonomy, and that's what working for us, Praveen.
Okay. Cyrille, anything else?
So for this quality use case, we don't have really a big red button to push. So, but we deploy what we call the Plant Connect. It's a visual place in each plant for the animations, daily animation, covering all the aspects of the plant. So meaning, of course, quality, production, supply chain, energy topics, etc. So all the data come from in an automatic way, so it's trusted informations. People from the plant see the results and they are able to take additional decisions. In case of doubt, we can say, okay, we have these results, but we need to deep dive. So it's not giving all the decisions to AI agents, but it's to help people to have better informations and, if needed, to take additional decisions to deep dive on it.
Thank you. So, thank you for your enormous trust in Google Cloud and sharing your knowledge as well. But before we close, since a lot of people here, I bet many of them are wondering about their own journey into the AI agents, what is one piece of advice that each of you would offer to the audience here as they start their journey? Let me start with you, Cyrille.
Okay, I think for me, it's clear. Get the support from your executive. So we had the chance in this use case to have a full and clear sponsorship of manufacturing, quality, and supply chain EVP, Thierry Charvet, who has a clear understanding about how data and AI can be a major lever to make breakthrough for his business results. So by having this support, for sure it's challenging for IT teams, but it helps to structure a multi-year and multi-step approach, build strong foundations on data, and this is a major topic. Also reshuffle processes, also a big topic. To have a real AI and data information system and not another proof of concept. Because we had in the past, I would say every company, many POC, but now we need to be at scale and we achieve this for this quality use case.
That's how we get past pilot purgatory.
A simple one, fall in love with the problem you're trying to solve rather than the tool will be the starting point to get it going along with what Cyrille highlighted. That will be my advice.
Thank you, Mandar.
I'll echo that and say work backwards from that end goal in mind. So when we did Care Energy, we said we wanted to change how our fleet energy looks like. We want to make the grid more reliable, more affordable, more green, change how our load looks like on the grid. And so then we step back from that, understand what then do we want to build from a data standpoint, but also from an agent AI standpoint, and what guardrails do we need to put around this to make sure that we do this safely and effectively to achieve that outcome. So work back from the outcome and then get into the technology.
So that brings to the end of this conversation. Thank you all for taking time to attend this conversation, and thank you our panelists for spending time with us and sharing your knowledge.